Okay, yeah. So yeah, good morning to everyone. Okay, so let's begin today's lecture. So in the last lecture, we were still covering some of the closure properties of regular languages. So we looked at properties. So we looked at operations like difference, and again we looked at union, and then also we looked at complement, and finally we were doing this proof of reversal. So if you reverse a regular language, then you get another regular language, and we proved this, right? So reversal of regular language basically means you reverse every string in that language, and we showed that if you do that, right, then the language that you get is also a regular language, and we showed that by constructing an NFA. So from the NFA of the original language, we can construct an NFA of the reversal of the language. Uh, so, are there any questions regarding yesterday's lecture? Right. Okay. So, yeah. So another way in which you can show that if you reverse a language, a regular language, then you get another regular language is through this route of regular expression. So we know that a regular language uh, can be represented by any of the finite state automaton, right? Or it can also be expressed or described using a regular expression, right? Uh, so given a regular expression, right, which describes a regular language, we can directly reverse this regular expression so that uh, so that the new regular expression that we get is going to express the reverse of the original language, right? And since every and since a regular expression only describes a regular language, that would also prove that the reverse of a regular language is also regular. So so this is very straightforward, right? So unlike the proof for NFA, right, which was a bit complicated, right? This procedure, right, and this proof is also very straightforward. Right? So we start with the basic regular languages, with the basis regular expressions, rather. So E is a regular expression, right? Then if it's a basis regular expression, then there are only three possibilities, right? So it can either be the symbol epsilon or the empty set, right? And in each of these cases, right, it's very easy to see that the reverse of this regular expression is going to be the same regular expression, right? Uh, so in the sense that of each of these expressions, right? The language of the expression A is just the string A, right? Similarly, the language of epsilon is just the string epsilon, and so on, right? So if you reverse them, you get the same language. So that's why reversing the regular expression also gives you the same regular expression. Okay. So once you have covered the base cases, we then need to cover the inductive cases. So let's do this, right? So let's say that you have this regular expression E, which is given by F plus G. So this is the union of two regular expressions, right? So then what would be the reverse of this regular expression? So the regular language described by the expression E is the union of the regular language described by expressions F and G. Yeah, so Vikram is saying it is FR plus GR. Okay, so let me write that down. FR plus GR. Yeah. So this is correct. Right? So if you want to reverse every string, right, in the language which is described by E, uh, right, then that means that you reverse every string in the language that is described by F and G. But that's the same as FR plus GR. Right? So this is correct. So what about concatenation? Right? So let's say that E is equal to FG. So then what would be the reverse of E? So here, right, the language that is described by E is the concatenation of the language that is described by F and G. So if you want reverse, yeah, so Vikram and Alan are both saying GRFR. So here we reverse the order. So since any expression, is rather any string in the language of E, right, is going to be a string in the language of F concatenated with a string in the language of G. So if you reverse that, right, then you have to write the strings in G first. Right? So you reverse the strings in G, and then you also reverse the string in F. So that's how you get GRFR. And the last one is the asterisk operator, right, or Kleene star. So let's say that E is equal to F star. So then what would be the reverse of it? So here, right, when we say F star, so any string in the language of E is given by concatenating multiple copies which are present in the language of F. Multiple copies of strings which are present in the language of F. Okay, so Vikram is saying, yeah, Vikram and Alan are both saying FR star. So this is FR and then star. Yeah, so this is correct, right? So if you take any string in the language of E, right? So it's basically going to be some words, right? W1, W2 up to Wn, right? Where each of these Wi belong to F. So when you reverse it, right? So you will get WNR, Wn-1R, and so on up to W1R. But notice that each of these, right, are going to be present in FR. So that's why the reverse is basically FR star. So you can again formally prove this. Right? So we are sort of informally reasoning here, but you can also formally show, right, that each of these expressions are correct. So this means that given any arbitrary regular expression, you can reverse it, right? And the reverse of the regular expression is exactly going to describe the reverse of the language of the regular expression. So and that's how and that's why the reversal the regular languages are closed in the reversal, right? So this language of ER is going to be the language of E, and then it's reverse. So and since this is regular, right, that's why this is also regular. Okay. That is saying the same thing. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, so let's consider another operation. So this operation is slightly different, right, from the other operations that we have seen, right? So this is homomorphism. Right? So let's first define what is a homomorphism, and then we will show that regular languages are also closed under homomorphisms. So a homomorphism is parameterized, right, by two alphabets. So these are two alphabets. Right? So this is sigma, and this is gamma. Right? So this is the Greek word capital gamma. So homomorphism from alphabet sigma to gamma is basically a function that maps each symbol in sigma to a string in gamma star. So we will use this notation H for homomorphism. Right? So it's the function from sigma to gamma star. So it's basically going to associate a string, right, in gamma star for every symbol in sigma. So let's look at an example. Right? So let's say that sigma is the binary. Let's say that sigma is the binary alphabet, and gamma is this alphabet consisting of two symbols A and B. Right? So then this is an example of homomorphism. Right? So this associates the symbol 0 with the string AB, and it also associates, so H also associates the symbol 1 with the string epsilon. So now that since we can associate, so we have defined this H for every symbol, but we can also then define H for a string in sigma. So in order to extend the definition of H to strings, we simply apply H to the individual symbols that are present in the string. So H of this string, right, A1, A2 up to AN is going to be H applied to the individual symbols. Right? So it's going to preserve the same order, right? But you will simply apply H to all of the symbols. Right? to be h of a1 dot 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 h of n. So here's an example. Right? So we have defined h before, right? So this is the definition of h. Okay. So h of this string, right? 01010. So this is a string in sigma star, right? And the way we define it is that we look at every individual symbol, right? And we simply apply h to every individual symbol in the string. So h of 0 is AB, h of 1 is epsilon. Right? So you will get three repetitions of AB, right? And epsilon concatenated with anything is the original string itself. So that's why epsilon is not present. Right? So you'll get AB, AB, AB. Right? Okay, so now that we have defined this operation of homomorphism, right? So we can then ask the question, right, that are regular languages closed into homomorphism? Which means that if you have a language, right, in sigma star, which is a regular language, and if you apply and if you apply an arbitrary homomorphism h, so then you will get a language in gamma star. Right? So you can apply this h to every string in the language, and you will get another set of strings, right? So that will be a language in gamma star. So then you can ask the question that is this new language in gamma star a regular language or not? And it so happens, right, that regular languages are indeed closed under homomorphism as well. So if L is a regular language, right, so L is in sigma star, then H is a homomorphism on its alphabet. Right? So H is a homomorphism from sigma to gamma star. Then this h of L, right, is simply h applied to every string in the language. Right? So h of L is the set of strings HW, where W belongs to L. And this, right, is going to be a language in gamma star, right? But this is also a regular language. So if L is a regular language, then h of L is also a regular language. And to prove this, right, so this proof is again very straightforward, right? So we'll use the representation of regular languages as a regular expression. So we know that there exists a regular expression for every regular language. So we will show how to apply this homomorphism H to a regular expression, right? Such that the resulting regular expression that we get is exactly going to describe H of L. So let's do this, right? So let's say that, so let alpha be the regular expression for this language L, okay? Uh, So we can define h of alpha inductively, right? So let's do this, right? So let's first consider the base cases, right? So far we have defined this h on symbols and strings and on languages as well. But now we are going to define h on regular expressions. So what are the regular expressions? Right? So we have the three base cases. Right? So one is h of a, then you have h of epsilon, and then you have h of phi. So note that this a, epsilon, and phi, right? These are regular expressions. So these are not. So here a is not a symbol, right? It's a regular expression whose language is basically the string a, and so on. So what is h of a? So what can we define h of a, right? So that the regular expression that we get is exactly the describes exactly the language h of a. Yeah. So the string h of a, right? So Alan is saying the string h of a. So that is correct, right? So note that, I mean, here, right, we're writing h of a is equal to h of a, right? But these are different, right? So this a is a bold face a, right? So this is the regular expression a, right? And this a, right? So this is the string a. Okay, so this is the string which consists of just a single symbol a, and yeah, and so that's how we can define h of a, right? So what about h of epsilon? Yeah, so Vikram is saying it is epsilon. Yeah, so that is correct, right? So note that this H, right, the original definition of homomorphism, right, is from sigma to gamma star, right? So H is not defined on epsilon, right? So in fact, H of epsilon is always going to be epsilon. Right? So that's why this is epsilon. And what about the H of empty set? Yeah, so Vikram is saying it's epsilon. Sorry, it's fine. So that's also correct. Okay, so now that we have defined this for the basis, right? So let's just double check, right? So what we want, right, is that this would be regular expressions, right? And this regular expressions would describe the homomorphism, right, uh, of the corresponding languages, right? So we know that the language of A, for example, right, is just the string A, while the language of this regular expression is the string H of A. And it is indeed true, right, that that H, when applied to A, this language which consists of the string A is going to give the language which consists of the string H of A. So that's why this is correct. And similarly, epsilon to H is only going to give me epsilon. And finally, the empty set is going to give me empty set. So this is correct. So now we can apply, we can do the same thing for the inductive cases, right? So let's do this, right? So let's say I want to find out what is H of beta plus gamma, right? Beta and gamma are regular expressions, but they are regular expressions on sigma. So what would be H of beta plus gamma? So plus is the union operator, right? So we want a regular expression such that it would describe uh, exactly the language that you obtained, right? After you apply homomorphism on the union of H of beta and H of gamma. Okay, so H of B plus H of Y. Okay, so Vikram is saying H of beta plus H of gamma, right? Yeah, so this is correct, right? So what is happening here, right? So beta, right, and gamma are two regular expressions, right? And they would describe the language, let's say L and M. Okay. So now when we say so when we say beta plus gamma, right? So the language is going to be L union M. Right? So H of this L union M, right? So here H of L union M would simply be H of L union H of M. So, so this is because you are applying H on every string in L union M, right? So this is the same as you apply every string, as you apply H on every string in L, you apply H on every string in M, and then take the union, right? So these two sets would be equal, right? And this is exactly described by H of beta plus H of gamma, right? Assuming that H of beta describes H of L, and H of gamma describes H of M. So that's why H of beta plus gamma is going to be H of beta plus H of gamma. Okay. So now let's complete this, right? So what about beta gamma? So this is the concatenation operator. Yeah. So that's correct. Right? So Alan is saying H of beta concatenated with H of gamma. Right? So again, the explanation is the same here, right? So beta gamma, right? So beta and gamma would correspond to this language LM, right? But H of LM, right, is going to be it's going to be H of L concatenated with H of M. Right? So any string in LM, right, is going to be a string in L concatenated with a string in M. Right? But if you apply H, right, then you would first apply it on the string in L and then apply it on the string in M and then concatenate them together. Right? So that's why this H of LM is going to be H of L concatenated with H of M, but this is the same as H of beta concatenated with H of gamma. Uh, yeah. And finally, right, so we can also take the star operator here, right? So what about H of let's say alpha star? Just give me a minute. Yeah, so we were talking. Yeah, so we're talking about h of alpha star. So what would this be? Okay, Aaron is saying h of alpha and whole star. Okay, so this is h of alpha and then whole star. Yeah, so this is correct, right? So here, right, any string in alpha star, right, is basically going to consist of concatenating multiple strings in the language of alpha, right? But if you apply h on that, right, that's the same as applying that's the same as you apply h on every string in alpha, right? And then you concatenate them together. So that's why this is going to be h of alpha and then the whole star. Right? So right. So this means that given any arbitrary regular expression, right, uh, we can applying so we have defined this h operator, right, on any arbitrary regular expression such that the result, right, the output is another regular expression. Okay, so that means that and that means that the homomorphism, right, the language that's described by the homomorphism of the original language is also going to be a regular language, right, because it is described by a regular expression. So yeah, okay, right. So yeah, this is the point that I already mentioned before, right? That alpha is a regular expression over sigma, right? And that's why it describes a language over sigma star. But h of alpha is a regular expression over gamma, right? So it describes a language over gamma star. And we just discussed, right, that we can also formally prove the construction that we just showed, right? How to construct the homomorphism of a regular expression, right? And we would use these observations, which I already mentioned before. Okay, so let's look at an example, right? So here we take the same homomorphism that we saw earlier, right? So sigma is the binary alphabet, gamma is this alphabet consisting of symbols A and B, and h of 0 is the string AB, and h of 1 is epsilon. Okay. And so suppose L, right, is a language over sigma star, and it's described by this regular expression, right? 0, 1 star plus 1, 0 star. So what would be h of L? Or rather, what would be h of this expression? Okay, so I have a couple of answers. So both KV Vikram and Vedant are saying A, B star. Okay. So, right, if you want to calculate h of this, right? So if you want to calculate h of 0, 1 star plus 1, 0 star, right? So we can just apply the things that we just learned, right? So this is going to be h of 0 1 star plus h of 1 0 star. Okay. And this in turn is going to be h of 0 and then h of 1 whole star plus h of 1 and then h of 0 the whole star. Okay. So h of 1 is epsilon, right? And epsilon star is epsilon. Further, if you concatenate epsilon with anything, then you get the same string. So this is going to be AB plus AB star, right? And so you can further simplify this regular expression, right? Because AB star, right, is going to contain AB. So therefore, this is going to be equivalent to AB star. Yeah. So that's how you get AB star. Okay. So yeah. So now that we have defined homomorphism, right? Let's also define an inverse homomorphism. So let's say that H is homomorphism from sigma to gamma, and you consider a language L in gamma star. Okay. So then this inverse homomorphism, right? So this H inverse, right? So this is a function from gamma star to sigma star. So note that the original homomorphism H, right, was from sigma to gamma star. Okay. And this H inverse takes a language in gamma star and gives another language in sigma star. And this is simply defined as the set of all strings in sigma star such that H of W belongs to L. Okay. So let's pictorially try to visualize this H inverse of L, right? So let's first pictorially visualize what was the homomorphism. Right? So you had this language L, right, which was in sigma star. So let's say that this is sigma star. Okay. And let's say that this is gamma star. And this would be H of L. Right? So this would basically be, you take every string in L, right, and then you apply H on that string, you will get H of L. Okay. So what is the inverse homomorphism? Right? So the inverse homomorphism is that, so again, right, let me draw sigma star and gamma star. Okay. So you take L, which is in gamma star, and you consider every string in sigma star such that applying H on that string takes you to L. Okay. And this would be H inverse of L. So you take all possible strings in sigma star such that applying H on those strings takes you to the language L. Uh, and the set of all possible and the set of all such strings would be H inverse of L. So there are two things to note here. So the first thing is that every string in H inverse of L, right? If you apply H on it, then you get a string in L. And there is no other string outside of H inverse of L. It's such that if you apply H on it, you would go to L, right? So this is not possible, right? So you don't have a string. If you take a string that's outside H inverse of L, then it's definitely going to go outside L itself, okay? If you apply H on it. So this is the definition of inverse homomorphism, right? So is the definition clear to everyone? Okay. So we will show that regular languages are also closed under inverse homomorphism. So which means that if you have a language in gamma star, uh, which is a regular language, then this H inverse of L, which is in sigma star, is also going to be a regular language. So first, let's look at an example of homomorphism. Right? So let's again consider the same homomorphism from the binary alphabet to AB. Right? So let's say that L, right? So this is a language consisting of two strings. So this is a language in gamma star. Right? So this is ABAB and then BAB. So what would be H inverse of L? So what are some strings, right? What are some strings in the binary alphabet, right? Which when you apply H on them would take you to ABAB. So would take you to L, basically. Okay, so 0, 0 is a string, that's correct. But is that the only string? So if you apply H on 0, 0, then you get AB, AB, which is definitely in L. Okay, so Sriram Gautam is saying 0, 1 star 0. Okay, so that's correct, right? Because no matter how many ones you have, right? Since H of 1 is epsilon, you will still get AB, AB. So H of this is still going to be AB, AB. So that's correct. Is this all? Okay, Kaustav is saying 0, 1 star, 0, 1 star. Okay. Yeah. So Tragada Manichandra is saying 1 star here. So this is correct. So this is H inverse of L. So if you take any of this string, so any string in this language, right, and you apply H on it, then you will get ABAB. So you can never get BABA, but since H of 1 is epsilon, applying H on any of this on the string in any of this on any of the string in this language, right, takes you to ABAB. So yeah, this is correct, right? So it's 1 star 0 1 star 0 1 star. So note that we have basically collected all possible strings, right, in sigma star in order to calculate this H inverse. Okay, so let's prove that. So let's prove that if you have a regular language, then its inverse homomorphism is also another regular language. So here we are going to use the DFA representation. So which means that we are given the DFA of the language in sigma in gamma star rather, and we will construct the DFA of the language H inverse of L. So we start with this DFA, which is for the language L, right? So let's look at this DFA, right? So this DFA has some set of states Q, right? So its input alphabet is the gamma, right? Because the homomorphism H, right, is from sigma to gamma star. So this is a language on gamma star, so that's why its input alphabet is gamma. This is a DFA, so we have the small delta M, right? And the single start state S, and then the set of final states M, F. Okay. So what we'll do, right, is that we will construct this DFA N for H inverse of L. Okay. And let's look at the signature of this DFA N. Right? So this DFA turns out to have the same set of states Q. Right? The input alphabet is now sigma, right? Because this homomorphism from sigma to gamma star. So you have this H inverse of L is going to be a language on sigma star. The transition function is different, right? So we have delta N. Its signature is also going to be different. So here delta M was from So here delta M was from Q cross gamma to Q, right, where here is going to be from Q cross sigma to Q. It has the same start state and the same final state, the set of final states. Okay. So okay, so let's see. Let's see what is going to be this transition function, delta N. So any guesses for what the transition function can be? So let's say that let's say I want to find out delta N of some Q comma A, right? So here Q belongs to Q and A belongs to sigma. So how can I express this in terms of delta M, which was the original transition function of the original DFA, such that the language of this N is going to be H inverse of L. So what transition can I make on the symbol A so that okay, Alan is saying it should be delta hat M. Let me write this down. So this is delta hat M of Q comma H of A. Okay, okay. So this is correct. So this is very good. Yeah. So what we are going to do, right, is that we are basically going to mimic the transition on the original DFA. So we are going to say that, okay, in the original DFA, right, if you are in state Q, and if you see the string h of a, then which state you are going to go to, and that is the state that you will go in this DFA n, right, on seeing the symbol a. Okay? So that right, so what's going to happen eventually, right, is that if you're going to accept a string which is present which is present in the original language L, right, uh, then you are also then this DFA n is going to accept the string which is going to be the inverse of that, right, h inverse of that. Uh, yeah, so this delta m q comma a is defined to be delta hat n of q comma h of a. So let's do an example, right, in order to make this more clear. So let's illustrate this inverse homomorphism construction using this example. Okay. So here, so this is the same homomorphism that you have considered before, right? So where gamma is this language A comma B. So this is a DFA of the language L, which is in the alphabet AB. Right? And let's construct a DFA now for H inverse of L. Right? So this is L. So let's construct a DFA for H inverse of L. So we said that this is going to have the same set of states. So I have A, B, and C. And the start state and the final state are also going to be the same. So the only thing that's different is the transition, right? So what is going to be small delta n, right, of a comma 0, right? So let's say I am in the state I'm in the state A, right, and I see the string 0. So what's going to be the transition? Okay, so Vikram is saying C. So that is correct, right? So delta n of this A and 0, right? So we just said that this is going to be delta hat m of A and h of 0, right? But h of 0 is AB. So what is delta hat m of A comma AB? And so if you look at this DFA, right? So if you are in the state capital A and you see the string AB, you go to C. So that's why I'm going to have this transition. So let's finish this, right? So what about for 1? So if you are in the state capital A and you see a 1, what are you going to do? So since this is a DFA, right, we need to define transitions for every symbol on every state. Okay. So what is delta n of capital A comma 1? Yeah. Okay. So A. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's correct, right? Uh, so if you apply the same formula, right, then delta n of A comma 1, right, is going to be delta hat m of A comma epsilon, because h of 1 is epsilon, and this is just A. This is by definition. Okay, so let's so you're going to have this transition, the self loop on 1 for every state. Okay, and what about for 0, right? So if you're in the state B and you see a 0, then you're going to go to the state C. And if you're in the state C and you see a 0, then you're going to remain there. So yeah. So this is going to be the final DFA for H inverse of L. And you can sort of convince yourself, right, by looking at some strings which are accepted in L, right, and see that H inverse of L, right, is the strings that are accepted by this DFA are going to be in H inverse of L. Okay. Uh, so for example, right, so AB is accepted here, right, and so that means the 0 is also going to be accepted here, and so on. Okay. So are there any questions regarding this construction for inverse homomorphism? Okay, Vedant is asking we can remove B entirely. Yeah, so you can remove B, right, because it's not reachable from the start state, right? So in fact, so this DFA is equivalent to a DFA which doesn't contain B. So we will actually formally see, right, that how do you remove states from a DFA, right, and get the minimal DFA. Okay. Any more questions? Yeah, so this is the DFA that's just constructed. Proof, right? So we can also formally prove that that the language of this DFA that we constructed, right, is actually equal to H inverse of n. Right? So to show that, right, I'm just going to give the very brief outline of this. Right? So we're not going to prove this formally, right? But we can show by induction, right, that for all strings W, this delta hat n, right, which is the new DFA that we constructed on s comma W, is actually going to be equal to delta hat m of s comma h of W. Right? So this means that if h of W takes you from a start state to a final state, then W is going to take you. So if h of W takes you from the start state to a final state in the DFA M, then W is going to take you from the same start state to the same final state in the DFA N. Right? That's why W is going to belong to L of N if and only if W is going to belong to H inverse of L of N. Okay, so let's see that why we are interested, right, in this operation of homomorphism, right, or what's an application of this property, right? So let's look at an application of closure under homomorphism. So let's consider this epsilon NFA M. Right? So consider this arbitrary epsilon NFA M. So we have shown that epsilon NFA, right? So an epsilon NFA is different from a normal NFA because an epsilon NFA can contain epsilon transitions. Right? So we proved formally, right, that adding epsilon transitions doesn't really change the power of an NFA. Right? If you have an epsilon NFA, then you can construct an equivalent NFA which will accept the same language. Right? So the language accepted by an epsilon NFA are also regular languages. Right? But that proof was a bit complicated. So we will show here, right, that we can use homomorphism to give a very simple and elegant proof, right? That this language of M is also a regular language. So let's consider this ordinary NFA, right? M epsilon, right? So this M epsilon is derived from M, right? So it has the same set of states. It has the same transition function, the same set of start states and same set of final states. The only difference is that, so here, right, in the epsilon NFA, we had this empty string epsilon that was present in the input alphabet, right? Well, here in this ordinary NFA M epsilon, the language is the sigma union epsilon, right? So here, this epsilon is not the empty string. Right? So epsilon is a symbol in the alphabet itself. Right? So the only difference between this and this, right, is that this original NFA M was an epsilon NFA because it had epsilon transitions, right? And here, right, the epsilon denoted the empty string in the NFA, in the epsilon NFA M. While in this ordinary NFA, right, so this is an ordinary NFA, which means it doesn't have epsilon transitions, but it has transitions on the symbol epsilon, right? Because the transition function delta is the same as it was in the original NFA, right? So, I mean, to avoid confusion, we could have even used another symbol instead of epsilon. So we could have used some symbol, right? Let's say, so you could use any symbol here, right? But just to make sure that we can use the same transition function, I have reused this epsilon, right? But this epsilon here is not the empty string, so it's the symbol epsilon. So since this is an ordinary NFA, right, so this means that the language of this is going to be regular, right? But it's going to have epsilons inside it, right? Because this epsilon is no longer the empty string, right? So you can't get rid of them. But you can define an homomorphism to get rid of this epsilon. Right? So we then define this homomorphism from this language sigma union epsilon to sigma star. And this homomorphism is very simple. Is very simple, right? So for every symbol A in sigma, we say h of A is equal to A. while h of this symbol epsilon is the empty string epsilon, right? So what we are doing, right, is that if you have a string, right, which contains symbol epsilon, right, then we simply get rid of all of those symbols by mapping the symbol epsilon to the empty string epsilon. Uh, so now, right, you can see that then this h of L of m epsilon is going to be equal to L of m, right? So L of m epsilon is the language of this ordinary NFA. Yeah. So L of m epsilon is the language of the ordinary NFA, and this language is going to contain the symbol epsilon inside it. But if you apply h, right, then all of those symbols epsilon, all of those epsilon symbols are going to vanish, right? And what you're going to be left with is the language of m itself. Okay? But we have just seen that that regular languages are closed under homomorphism. So which means that since L of m epsilon is regular, therefore h of L of m epsilon is also regular, which means that L of m is also regular. Okay. Uh, yeah. So since L of m epsilon is regular and regular languages are closed under homomorphism, therefore L of m is also regular. And this means that the language that was accepted by the original epsilon NFA is also regular, which means that epsilon NFAs accept exactly the regular languages. So so this is a very elegant and simple proof, right? Which uses this property of closure under homomorphism in order to prove that epsilon NFAs accept regular languages. So are there any questions or doubts regarding this proof? Okay, so yeah, so the book, both Cozen and the HMU book, right, contain even more applications of disclosure under homomorphism and inverse homomorphism. Right? So if you're interested, so I have already referenced the sections, right, in on Moodle, right? So you can go through those sections and they contain more examples, right, of applications under of uses of this property of closure under homomorphism and inverse homomorphism. Okay. So finally, right? So let's also consider this very subtle point, right, involving closure under homomorphism and regular and inverse homomorphism of regular languages. So we know that if L is regular, then H of L is regular. Right? So we showed that. So regular languages are closed under homomorphism. And we also showed that if L is regular, then H inverse of L is also regular. So regular languages are also closed under inverse homomorphism. So, however, if we consider this property, right, that if h of L is regular, then is L regular. So this is saying that h of L is regular, and it's asking whether or not L is regular. Right? So it turns out that this is not correct. Okay. So the reason is that this h inverse of h of L is not L, right? So even though h of L is regular, right, and if you take the inverse homomorphism of a regular language, you get a regular language. This h inverse of h of L is not going to be equal to L, and that's why this L need not be regular, even if h of L is regular. So this h of L is going to be a language over gamma star, right? Uh, right? While this L is a language over sigma star. So even though this h of L is regular, L need not be regular. Right? So here's a very simple example. So consider this language L, which is a language over the binary alphabet. So this is the 0 and 1 n, right? So we know that this language is not regular. Okay. And let's consider this homomorphism H. Right? So this is from sigma to sigma star. So it's over the same alphabet, and it assigns it assigns both 0 and 1 to the string 0. So h of 0 is 0 and h of 1 is also 0. So now h of L is going to be this language 0n, right, where n is even. So the reason is that since we have since all the ones, right, are going to be converted into zeros, right, but we have the same number of zeros as the same number of ones. Right? So therefore, h of l is going to be 0n, where n is even. Okay. So this is a language over sigma star, and this language is actually regular. So it's very easy to show that this is regular. Okay. However, notice that L was not regular. So this is a demonstration of this property that if h of L is regular, then L need not be regular. Okay. And in fact, right, if you take h inverse of h of L, then it's going to be the set of all strings such that the length of that string is even. So this language is again regular, right? And the original language L is actually a subset of this language, h inverse of h of L. Okay. Yeah, so you should be careful when considering this closure and homomorphism and inverse homomorphism. Okay. Right. So I'm out of time today. So let's end the lecture today, right? So from the next lecture onwards, right? So the next lecture we have test, right? And as one of you asked yesterday, right? So the syllabus of the test is going to be everything from non-deterministic finite automata. Right? So from NFA onwards, right? So you will have NFA, regular expressions, and closure properties of regular languages. So we won't have DFAs in the test, in the syllabus for the test. And from Monday onwards, right? So we'll start decision properties of regular languages. Thank you, everyone.
Sir,
Yes.
will you be uploading solutions of the problem sheet, or like like
Uh,
final answers or something? Or I think
no, no, I won't upload the solutions, right? So we can talk about it, right? So I have office hours today. So if you have solutions, then you can send them to me, right? Or any of the TAs. But or we can discuss the solutions, but I won't upload it.
okay. So with TAs or with you? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.